Hi, I'm Jill too. I felt like there were things that I knew were off about my work, but I didn't know how to fix them. And so, I was on sub with this novel and it wasn't quite getting the reaction I was hoping for, even though I loved elements of it, and so did editors, but not enough to buy it.
Hi, my name's Isabel Cañas. Having gone to Clarion West in 2018, I came in expecting a similar sort of leveling up experience that I had at Clarion West, but I felt that throughout my experience at Odyssey, the leveling up trajectory was much steeper.
Hi, my name is Iris Hong. I'm 21 years old. I decided to apply to Your Personal Odyssey writing workshop because I've always wanted to be a writer, first of all. I've always loved writing, but I felt like I was very stuck. I was reading all these writing books, I was attending workshops at my college, but I felt like I was hitting this wall. I wasn't getting better, and I felt very frustrated, and I wasn't gonna give up or anything, but I felt like, oh, it would be really great if I could have this experience that would help me become a better writer, help me get me out of this funk.
My name is Cheryl Hamilton. I had hit a bit of a wall. I had been improving through other workshops and teaching and reading and critique groups and so on, and I'd gotten my writing to a particular level. I was starting to submit stories and went through a stage where all I was getting were just generic rejections. And then I did a bit more work on my writing, and then I started to get slightly more personalized rejections, little comments in with my rejections, but they were still all rejections. And so I felt that I had got as far as I could get using the tools that I had access to. And I learned about Odyssey, and I learned about it. I read about its intensity, and I thought, okay, this seems like what I need. I think I need an intervention to get me off this plateau.
My name is Avian Lee. When I say I didn't know anything, I mean I knew nothing about writing. My background's completely engineering, classical engineering. They don't teach English in engineering. When I read some writers who had been in Odyssey, and they were saying that Jeanne really breaks down sentences and breaks down paragraphs and really explains the science, I guess, behind writing. I thought that was perfect for me because I was trying to do that on my own with reading authors that I really love to read their books over and over again and trying to figure out why I love their style more than someone else's style.
Pedagogically speaking, to use a big word, I found that Odyssey was better tailored to the kind of student that I am, because I've reached a point in my career where I am an advanced writer, so to speak. I have published short stories and novels, and I wanted to improve. And what is tricky at this level is that I needed to improve in specific pinpointed ways. And going through this full curriculum with Odyssey allowed me to focus on those very pinpointed, specific to me ways that I did not always have the opportunity to focus on in a more traditional workshop setting.
Hi, I am I Jang. I think Your Personal Odyssey is different from other writing workshops I've attended because of its personalized nature and also the one-on-one time spent with Jeanne. It really helps in focusing on my specific needs as a writer and shape a suitable plan for my current writing capabilities.
Hi, I'm Leah Ning. I was sort of at a point in my writing where I felt like I had sort of hit a wall where I knew that there were things that I could improve about my writing, and I didn't really know what they were. I didn't really know what to do to make it better. And the best part kind of about applying to Odyssey was all those questions on the application about how, like, okay, what do you think your weaknesses are and what do you think your strengths are? And I was like, oh good, this is going to be great.
I was at this point where I was kind of plateauing, and I felt like I could keep plateauing for the next 5 or 10 years, hopefully not giving up, and maybe stumble upon some of the right answers and get lucky. Or I could hopefully have somebody tell me what I was doing wrong sooner so that I could fix it sooner.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Teese. I would probably say I was a pantser. I had a tiny bit of an idea about structure, but I really learned through Odyssey that that process wasn't really working for me. Through being a part of Odyssey and working with Jeanne, we've really been looking into finding like what is the optimal process for me.
This is like the best writing workshop I've ever been to. It's really helped me grow in ways that I like didn't expect.
I think both the fact that the program is done remotely and asynchronously, as well as on kind of your own time scale, so having the choice between the 6 month and the 3 month and the 6 week program really helped to me to tailor what I thought was an appropriate workload, both for my just kind of fitting into my life, but also the speed that I thought would help me kind of grow the most effectively, and not kind of stall out in between. So, for me, having asynchronous lessons was really helpful because I can listen at 6 a.m. when my kids are still sleeping. And I can, watch the lectures and do the work, before they get up, as opposed to having to fit in a lecture, in the middle of, their day or middle of our day once it gets started. So I really appreciate the ability to slot that in kind of where it fits into my life.
I really loved the guest lecturers. I was just blown away by the authors they were able to get for the guest lectures. I I could not believe it. When I started seeing the writers who were coming back to speak or other writers that were interested in helping Odyssey students succeed, I was just absolutely blown away.
I had so many insights into my writing and especially my writing process that I did not anticipate at all because of Your Personal Odyssey. I am a writer who is very, I don't want to say precious about my process. Perhaps proud is a better way of phrasing it. I've spent a lot of years crafting a novel writing, like step by step process that I thought worked best for me. I began my writing career while I was a PhD student, so I had a limited amount of time in the summers to crank out novels, and so I taught myself to pre-write in such a way that I could just slam out those novels in like 6, 9, 12 weeks in the summer, however much time I had. And I came to Odyssey kind of not at all anticipating that that process would change. When we really started to sink our teeth, Jeanne and I, when we really started to sink our teeth into my process and interrogate it, I think Jeanne's emphasis on the growth mindset really helped me take a step back from my process and realize that there were places where it could be vastly improved. And as somebody who had like had this like set step by step, I'm a very like type A person, this step by step process for like preparing to write novels that had worked for me for several years, it worked until it didn't. I think that for me is one of the big takeaways from Odyssey is like I really had a chance to critically examine my process hand in hand with Jeanne and troubleshoot it, so to speak, trying to understand why it was that my novels sometimes ended up having character arcs and plots that did not meet as well as they could or feed into one another as well as they could and therefore be as satisfying a final product as they could. So the insights that I had into my process in particular were mind-blowing throughout this Odyssey experience.
Participating in Your Personal Odyssey from my own house was very special. I live in a very remote part of the world. I live in the Himalayas of North India. I live in a walk-in only village. So if this was not online and able to do from the comfort of my own home, I don't think I could have participated at all. It would have been impossible. The nearest major city is 8 hours away, and the capital, Delhi, is 12 hours away. So just me getting anywhere is quite difficult. So being able to do it from home was so special, so amazing. And like I said too, just the opportunity to have so many one-on-one meetings with Jeanne, the director of Odyssey, is a huge thing. Like I've never even heard of that in any of their programs before.
I hoped to get some frank reflection on what actually was wrong with my writing, what was holding me back, what wasn't gelling, what kind of my shortcomings and weaknesses were, what my bad habits were as a writer, because I wasn't able to see them myself. And I absolutely got that and more. So, right from the very, very beginning, we honed in on my particular weaknesses in my storytelling, and we worked on that for the next 6 weeks. Different aspects of it. We layered it in with tons of other learning, but fundamentally, this was about me learning how to see what being told what the shortcomings were, but then learning how to see them myself, then having a range of tools offered to me to address those specific shortcomings, and then lots of practice in different ways. Practice in writing, practice in analyzing those things, practice in doing exercises associated with those things, in order to feel that I didn't just get the magic key of here's what it is, off you go and fix it, but rather here is also how you can fix it. And then support all the way along once I realized how hard it was to fix those things. And so I think it really did. It was so tailored to what my particular challenges were in storytelling, and then I feel I got macro level, micro level, and meso level kind of tools and insights to really hone in on those. So if I continue to make those errors, if I continue to have those weaknesses in my writing, that is 100% on me, because Odyssey gave me every tool and insight from a variety of perspectives and a variety of types of learning to be able to take that on and work towards eliminating those from my writing.
My first biggest takeaway, far and away, is that I don't spend nearly as much time on pre-writing as I think I should. I thought of myself as a plotter before this, and that I was pretty methodical in my approach to beginning to write my stories before the drafting process began. Now I know that I don't spend nearly enough time on that phase of the writing work. So, just digging into that, really getting to know plot and character and how they intertwine, how that relates to what I'm overall trying to say in the story, the different elements of my character that I'm going to demonstrate, not only how they started at the beginning of the story, but how they're going to change. Just being that much more intentional about every element of the story and how it ties together. While not losing, the fun sort of exploratory part of writing that I love and that I think, a lot of writers are drawn to. So, yeah, far and away, I think it's that I can be that much more intentional in helping make the piece what I want it to be before I even really put pen to paper.
I could tell that Jeanne spent really hours looking at my story and ways for me to improve specifically. She would have like a ton of notes based on like, oh, like this part was good, but this is how you can make it better. This part didn't work so much for me. Or she would say like, oh, in our discussions, I know that you intended to do this, but I think, in your writing, you give off this impression, which I know you didn't intend to mean. And then we would talk about it extensively. So I would get like a ton of time and a ton of critiques about like how to improve this particular story.
There's so many techniques and tools that I've gained through Odyssey to help me write the story that I want to write. I used to think that like if I got stuck, eventually an answer would just appear, and that happened one time ever. There's actually ways you can work through things to find the solution that your story needs, and so that's been such an exciting part of being in Odyssey.
My hopes and expectations for Your Personal Odyssey were both met and exceeded. I thought Jean was an absolutely amazing and encouraging and enthusiastic teacher. I've never met someone so enthusiastic about working with writers, and I feel like that makes all the difference, especially because I've been in teaching before. Um, she's both knowledgeable in craft but also open to exploration with her students and figuring out what works best for me as an individual writer. It was rigorous and exhausting, but also inspirational and invigorating at the same time.
In other writing workshops that I've attended, it tends to be a less in-depth, less personal experience. Your Personal Odyssey. I mean, but In Your Personal Odyssey, you're really, really putting the focus on what are your specific weaknesses and what are the specific ways that we can tackle those and strengthen those. Um, and this was like a really deeply personalized experience in the sense that Jeanne really knew my work. She was incredibly in depth with her critiques, and everything that we did was really geared towards strengthening the weaknesses that I had in my writing when I came into Odyssey.
One of the most amazing parts of Your Personal Odyssey for me was toward the end of the program, I spoke with Jeanne. We were just kind of checking in on how the modules were going. I said to her, that I felt like I wanted more of a deep dive into one element of fiction, which was character arcs and emotional arcs in pieces of longer work. And before I knew it, within a day or two, she had created this like tailor-made module, and she made that for me out of thin air. And I couldn't have asked for anybody to be more attentive or thoughtful about that request.
The one-on guest critiques were incredible. I was so amazed to be able to just talk to these authors. And also, it's like you get to speak with them. They critique your work and do line edits. And they also give you a written letter outlining your strengths and things that they think you can improve. So the depth of that to me was mind blowing. Even just having a conversation with them would have been amazing.
My personal odyssey is just wonderful for me because I'm a mom of two and I work from home. I would not be able to go anywhere to participate in a 6-week writing program. That's like boggles my mind how people can do that. I think that's awesome that they could do it, because if I could, I would be there. But for me, it just wasn't something I can do in my life at the moment. And having this chance to sit at my desk at home, cut out some writing time, which ended up being a lot of writing time, to watch the videos and at my schedule. So it's like I could do what I needed to do in the daytime with the kids. And then whenever I had a free moment, I could stop and watch the lectures or do some of the assignments or work on writing, since she had us writing every single week. And it just felt like I was using my entire day. There was no part of my day that wasn't being used. And it really made me think, okay, well, this is what my writing life is going to be also, because it's not like after Odyssey, I'm not going to have a family anymore, or like I'm not going to stop writing. So it was almost like a crash course in how I could be a successful writer.
I think writers should apply to Your Personal Odyssey writing workshop and attend because it's a wonderful opportunity for anyone looking to upgrade their writing abilities and craft knowledge. And I feel like it's the perfect program for those looking for something rigorous and for those eager to continue challenging themselves as writers.
I think that if you want to apply to Odyssey, it should be because you are really ready to take an honest look at your work and put some really hard work into improving it. If you're at a point where you feel like it's really difficult for you to take a critique, it's really difficult for you to hear feedback about your own work, Odyssey might not be the thing for you. But if you are at a point where you feel like you know that there are weaknesses in your work and you really want to know how to fix them, that's the time that you really should apply for Odyssey.
I have such better visibility and clarity on my areas to watch out for, and things that I'm good at and that I'm strengthening and that are kind of assets for my craft, that I didn't have insight into before.
The experience of participating in Your Personal Odyssey has been amazing, like on every level. Definitely one of the best parts is getting to meet with Jeanne 3 to 4 times a week. That is incredible. Like, just the level of deep mentorship that goes on in Your Personal Odyssey is, that is like one of the life-changing experiences of Odyssey for me. And I think for me as well, one thing that's been so amazing about working with Jeanne and the guest critiquers is you also begin to see how writers problem solve and craft stories.
My advice for people who are applying to Odyssey, whether it be My Personal Odyssey or any other kind of Odyssey program, like in-person Odyssey, is come knowing that your feelings are going to get hurt. Because if you're anything like me, you might think, oh, my writing is perfect and I'm just going to find a way to make it even more perfect. No, you're going to discover that your writing needs some work, a lot of it. And these are the reasons why. Not saying you're not capable or that your writing isn't really good at the moment, but it can be better.
Receiving critiques from Jeanne was absolutely magic. I mean, I knew from the outset because, Jeanne is nothing but honest. She tells you in advance what things are going to be. You may or may not believe what she says. Not because you think she's a liar, just because you think it can't possibly be true. And then, in fact, in every instance, it's true. And so Jeanne had said critique is about 10% positive, and then it should be 90% constructive and useful. Uh, kind of critique to help you be better, and it certainly was that. I mean, she was absolutely encouraging about the changes she saw that I was making, the improvements, but at the same time, sometimes the same problems, sometimes new problems, but she very much honed in on those and then found different ways of articulating those, then would offer possible, solutions. So they were detailed and specific, and they were exactly appropriate to the level that they needed to be at. So there wasn't a lot of fluff about things that really didn't make much difference before you fixed kind of the fundamental issues. She was able to show those things to me and then offer me various possible ways to approach finding a solution. Then when we would meet in person about the written critique, certainly if I had any questions, I could ask her about those. But more often than not with Jeanne, what she and I ended up doing was just brainstorming. So we would have these fantastic brainstorming sessions that came out of some of the things that I was grappling with. And there is no better person on earth to brainstorm ideas coming out of your story. And Jeanne is able to draw out of you second and third and fourth order imaginings and engagements, as opposed to that kind of first tier thinking that sometimes we rely upon.
One thing that I was kind of worried about was that it was gonna be on Zoom, which I was wondering like, oh, would it be like not very personal then since I can't really see the people and I can't really talk to Jeanne, but that's not the case. It feels like very involved. It feels very active, very involved. So don't worry about that. And actually I preferred the Zoom format because yeah, I feel like it would let a lot of people who maybe can't go to the physical location, like me, like because I'm a student, I can't actually go there. And they can't, for those people, they can have this really rewarding experience from their own homes or schools or dorms like I did.
Brainstorming story ideas and fixes and things to kind of up the ante on my stories was so deeply fun that it meant that you could take on board the very serious, very straightforward, very compelling arguments that were there for what the flaws in the story were, but there was always a way to work through that and then work out of it and make the story better. So yeah, no, it was really quite amazing. Jeanne, if you believed in your story, Jeanne believed in your story, and then she would work with you to, you know, help you make that story much better than it was.
Jeanne is amazing. Jeanne is the font of all writing wisdom. Like really, the font of writing knowledge. I call her my writing sensei, and I actually grew up doing martial arts, so I use that word with like a lot of weight and respect. Because a sensei is someone who comes alongside you in your practice in a really deep way, and a sensei is also someone who is an expert level practitioner. Um, and like I would say Jeanne is like a 10th degree black belt, and there's only a couple of those in the world. So it's a lifetime commitment. So working with Jeanne, that has been by far for me the highlight of being a part of Odyssey. She just absolutely knows what she's doing. And also, like, Jeanne is a lot of fun. She has a great sense of humor. As I was saying before, we got to meet 3 to 4 times a week, which is amazing. And yeah, this is just really getting to work with her. Being in Odyssey has really been like the opportunity of a lifetime for me.
There is only so much that peers can do for you. There's only so much that an agent or some other sort of publishing professional partner can do for you. If you're ready to take that next step and figure out exactly what you're missing, then this is the program to check out. She really has been so generous, like taking this incredible amount of wisdom that she's amassed over decades in publishing and put it together in such a digestible, accessible package. The care, I think, and thoughtfulness that's woven all throughout this program, as well as the decision to make it remote and make it accessible for people that wouldn't have been able to attend otherwise, I think is just kind of like an inhuman, a superhuman level of thoughtfulness and generosity, in addition to like just the wisdom that Jeanne has. I think it's incredibly special, and just like so grateful that this program exists.
I learned how hard this is. I learned how enjoyable grappling with that hardness, with that challenge was, and I learned how deeply I wanted that. And so if you're at a stage where you feel like you are ready kind of for that, then I think Odyssey is, and I know others have said this, but I think that doesn't make it any less true. It's completely transformative.
It was hard to hear that feedback. It's still hard. I think with time and distance from some of those pieces, I think it will get easier, and I'm looking forward to going back to revise them after the program's over. But just keeping in mind that what you do with that information is all up to you, and whether or not you use it to improve or you decide to kind of stew on it and sulk and feel bad. I think that's allowed for a few days at least. But after your kind of allotted time for sulking is over, the decision to grow is kind of all in your control.